Now, welcome on in, you beautiful feckers. Hopefully you're all doing well. Now, you know when you hear someone saying, just wait a minute, okay, wait, just let me get this right, okay, let me cue up my nerd voice. This isn't even my final form. Well, for Wukong, this very well might be. His rework, of course, has made him into a bit of a monster. Wukong's red crit stick will have you dealing millions of damage consistently. Now, this setup will have your Wukong dealing red crits after about 20 hits, so that's not a whole lot. 20 hits of his Iron Staff and bang, you're already into red crit territory, so that's almost instantly, and the damage numbers are absolutely insane. I mean, just look at them. Look closely at the red numbers you're seeing on screen right now. The whole setup requires a little bit of stat buffing with mods on your Wukong, his Primal Rage Augment, his staff modded for crit as well, not Condition Overload. I have no Condition Overload on this build for this footage. You're going to be using your Sentinel weapon as well as a shell to carry certain mods on it that will also buff up your crit chance even further. And to top all of that off, you can choose to use Arcane Avenger as well if you want to increase your crit chance even further. And if that isn't enough for you, you can also choose to use the Naramon Focus School, because there is a passive in there that stops your combo counter draining really quickly. Now, I normally use Zenuric, so in this footage I'm not using Naramon. Now, this is a very detailed and I guess very specific setup that requires a decent amount of forma and work as well. But if you don't have all of the items, don't worry, maybe just try and get as close to it as possible and see how effective this whole setup can be. Now, before I go any further, let me quickly just explain how this video came about, while also giving some well-deserved shoutouts to other Warframe channels as well that make absolutely incredible content. About a week ago or so, I got this email, complete with images of builds asking me to check out their red crit Wukong. Now, I get a lot of messages like this and a lot of emails like this, but this one kind of caught my eye and it looked really fun, so I went ahead and I formed my Wukong again because I had a different build on him. I then went and formed his staff and my Sentinel at the same time. Then, like a fool, I ran a 1 hour MOT survival fisher, recorded all of my footage, made my thumbnail and started scripting the video, only to then get told by one of my moderators that two much smaller YouTube channels had made video variations of this setup a few weeks ago. But these guys deserve way more attention because they make absolutely incredible, consistent Warframe content. But for some crazy reason, their channels only have about 4,000 subscribers. So, 4 weeks ago, a channel called Gaz TTV made a variation of this setup when Wukong got his rework. And 2 weeks ago, a channel called Relentless Zen made a variation of this setup with absolutely insane production values on that video. Both channels are linked in this video's description. Go and check them out. If you like what you see, then make sure and hit that subscribe button for them because they definitely deserve it. Now, like I said, this whole setup revolves around very specific builds or very specific items that you're going to take with you. Now, this is my Wukong Prime's build for this setup. 2 Umbral mods for more health and power. Wukong's Primal Rage Augment adaptation to help keep you alive longer because we all know how great adaptation is. 2 of the Gladiator set mods for extra health and of course armor, but also to make the most out of the set piece bonus, which gives you the same effect as what Blood Rush does. And since Blood Rush can't be used on Wukong's Iron Staff, this will allow you to compensate for that. So 2 Gladiator mods to begin with, but we want at least 5, okay? Now, if you find yourself starved of energy, you could pop on a Rage mod or Hunter Adrenaline, again entirely up to you. I'm not using either of those mods simply because I'm running with Arcane Energize and I don't really need it. Simple as that. Now, next up, this is my 3 Forma Iron Staff setup, complete with Sacrificial Steel for crit chance boost, of course, Organ Shatter for more crit damage, Primed Reach to give you an insane amount of area coverage. It's got some serious range in it, this build. You can kill enemies so far away from you, it's fucking awesome. You've got Berserker on the build, of course, to amp your attack speed up in order to help you go full blender. But the big thing about this is, remember, your clone is also going to be using Iron Staff at the same time, so you're literally both going to be running around kicking the absolute crap out of everything that spawns in. And if you want to, you can mark enemies for your clone to deal additional damage to them. Not that I ever really needed to do that with this build because you're going to be dealing crazy numbers yourself. Now, next up, this is my Deconstructor Prime, the weapon that comes with your Helios Prime Sentinel. and it is just used as a shell. Don't worry about damage, don't worry about it killing shit. In fact, take off the attack preset on your Helios to make sure that it doesn't attack enemies and get aggro and die as a result. So on this build, you're going to stick the other 3 gladiator mods to give you 5 out of the 6 gladiator mods to give you that set bonus to boost that crit chance up really quickly with your combo counter. Now, if you wanted, you could put the gladiator mods on your normal melee weapon, whatever weapon you're bringing, whether it's a Zor or just a straight up Ninkondi or whatever, basically anything. But then that weapon just becomes a shell and kind of useless if you run out of energy. So I prefer to use it on my Helios because when he doesn't attack, he generally doesn't gain aggro, and the only real problem you will have with Helios is area of effect damage from enemies like napalms, bombards, and of course grenades or corpus fuck off mines underground. But primed regen on your Helios of course will have him revive. On my 1 hour MOT survival run, which you're watching right now, my Helios died once. That was it. Everything else that spawned in died way too quick for anything to get many shots off at me or at Helios, and if it was a bombard, I basically singled it out or a nully and killed them before anything else. Now, because you have sacrificial steel on your iron staff, it means that you're already at almost 50% crit chance with that alone. The 5 gladiator mods will increase your crit chance up incredibly quickly with your combo counter to red crit status, like I said, within 20 to 30 hits. But on top of that, I've also been running with Arcane Avenger to speed up the crit process. A full set of Arcane Avenger on PC right now costs about 150 platinum, so it doesn't cost a lot. Hopefully this video won't make the prices go up. Now, I know someone's probably already spoken in the comment section about Condition Overload and how much better Condition Overload is on Iron Staff than crit, how status is king, which is true, but what do you drop out of your Iron Staff build in order to fit Condition Overload in? I mean, it doesn't really need it. I've not really come into any trouble with this setup whatsoever in terms of damage fall off, because there doesn't seem to be any yet, unless maybe you're going complete endless and going up against enemies that are level 2, 3, 400, which at that point your biggest issue is going to be getting randomly one shot from across the room anyway, and it's not going to really matter what kind of damage you're dealing, because chances are you're stuck in a small room with just one entrance so that you can funnel as many enemies into it as possible. But when you look at this kind of setup, for me it kind of reminds me of the old Chroma builds, which took of course a lot of Forma and time and of course Arcanes to get to this level of power, but in the end he was an absolute beast. This kind of setup with Wukong right now isn't as bad. 7 Forma I think is maybe what you need in total, along with the augment and of course the Arcane Avenger as well. And since Avenger isn't as expensive as what I guess Grace or Energize was for the Chroma setups, it makes Wukong's red crit stick, that's really hard to say, much easier to obtain. Haven't seen some of the reworks that Warframes have gotten over the last year, with the exception of Vauban of course, for like Oberon and all of the others, and now Wukong as well. It does actually give me hope that when they release Vauban's rework, because it is next in line, they've said that Vauban, Old Trainhead, is the next Warframe to get some kind of a touch up. It does kind of give me hope that we're going to get something really, really nice, and Vauban could in fact turn out to be an incredibly powerful or useful Warframe. Now, fingers crossed that is the case and he doesn't just get another kind of small touch up and he turns out to be just as bad as he is right now, but one can live in hope, right? But I think we'll all agree right now that Wukong is in an incredibly good place since his rework. Whether you want to build him for Condition Overload or whether you don't want to go near his Primal Fury at all, whether you want to build him in relation to just staying alive and being very, very tanky, you have multiple different options. But for me, since I was shown this build, I think this is the one I'm going to settle on for Wukong because it is insanely powerful. Now, like I said at the start of this video, both of the channels I mentioned are linked at the top of the description of this video. Make sure, check them out. You might like what you see, give them a follow, definitely worth checking out at least. Do me a huge favour, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, or don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Warframe, and as always, thanks very much for watching.